All right, hello, welcome. Thank you so much. What an amazing turnout. It's a bit strange to be here with so many people here to listen to a talk about AI.
Hey Chris, how many people have you got down in Wellington?
How many people have we got? Yeah, probably just shy of 600.
I reckon we've got about 20 up here.
Not quite. We're at least 30, maybe a little bit more than 30.
Nice.
But it's not about the number of people, right? So anyway, we'll do a quick sound check. So if you are on the line, could I please ask you to turn your mics on? And if you're in Auckland, can I hear a g'day?
G'day.
And if you're in Dunedin, can I get a yo?
Yo.
If you're in Hong Kong, can I get a what's up?
What's
Hello?
up? What's up, Chris?
What's up, Rob? And if you're in Canada, can I get an A?
Hey.
Hey.
That's exactly what I was hoping for. Thank you. So you've just heard from my co-conspirator, Marc, Vincent, up in Auckland at the Radically offices. So thanks very much to Edwin, Dando, and the team for hosting us up in Auckland. And a familiar face to some of you, I hope. You might not see him now, but you'll definitely see him later, is Simon McCallum, dialing in from Dunedin tonight. And from across the globe in Hong Kong and Canada, we have some special guests from the Agentics Foundation. Nick Roost, Robert Yee, Reuven Cohen. Hopefully Robert Ranson will also be joining us tonight. We'll hear some more from Marc, Simon, Rob and Reuven in just a little while. So last but not least, I want to thank my sister Amanda from Headshots by Doc for taking some photos today here in Wellington, and also to the AI Corner newsletter for promoting the event. So my name is Chris Barlow, and I'm beaming in from Wellington today, thanks to my good friend Johnny Hay at Starfish Consulting. By day, I lead a team of digital architects. Some of them are here tonight, and by night. So when I'm not taking care of my family, well, my wife is here tonight, so you can find out how I'm doing. I do find some time for my hobbies, which includes building useful stuff, hopefully with AI coding agents. So let's get this party started. I can push that button. Who's in the audience? So for those of you who registered, we had 23% non-technical and 77 technical. So about a quarter of you are actually consider yourself non-technical. I thought that was just an interesting thing to consider. So looks like that really struck a chord with people, and I think it really speaks to people wanting to see some action in this space. And you know, we've been talking about it for so long, but like, what next? So right. In the lead up to this event, there was a comment from Josh Stanton on LinkedIn, which was, finally, an event run by folks who can tell a peanut from a p-value. Well, there's a high probability I might have needed to ask Claude what the p-value was. But anyway, let's get on with the talk for how we need more action and less talk. What is Agentics? So an assistant versus an agent, I think that's a good place to start. So it's kind of about an assistant will give you a reply, whereas an agent will kind of get work done. It's all about tool use, access to tools, and actually getting work done for you on your behalf. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about Agentics as kind of as a thing or as a movement. So one of the first very clear uses for agents that we've seen is in software development. So it's about accelerating software development and teams of agents actually working together to deliver outcomes for you. So it's quite exciting. So Marc would like to share with you some thoughts around the Agentics Foundation.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, g'day, Marc, Vincent. I have a background in technology and started as a developer. Moved into kind of dev manager and excuse me, architecture, team lead, and then kind of general manager and account exec. So have a broad history. I wasn't actually haven't been on the tools for 10 years or so. So when kind of, Agentics and AI came along, I saw it as an opportunity to really kind of get my hands dirty again and get back in there. And I think that's a theme that we'll touch on today, is that it's an enabler, and I think it's moving so quickly. It's important that people are kind of have their hands on the tool, on the keyboard, and kind of keeping up with what's going on. So it's a bit about me. So the Agentics Foundation was founded by Reuven Cohen, who's joining us today. It's 1:30 in the morning in Toronto right now. So yeah, big ups to Reuven and the other folks. Yeah, these guys are incredible. So yeah, it's a non-for-profit organisation, and it's dedicated to making AI innovation and education open to everyone. And Reuven is particularly open and sharing with what he does. He's got a GitHub repo which has a whole bunch of really powerful tools and code, which he shares with everyone. So yeah, a few people just to shout out. So yeah, Rue's on the call. Hopefully Rob is going to join us. He's our oh, do you want to hit the next slide there, Chris?
Can do.
Hopefully Rob can join. He's our secretary. Ocean is another kind of high profile individual who's built his own Lion AGI framework. And then want to give a shout out to Dave Brace, who is another Kiwi who is actually based in the States, in San Fran. A very clever cookie. So yeah, Chris and I kind of connected via the Agentics Foundation. We joined kind of Rue's WhatsApp and Discord, and as soon as I realised that Chris was a Kiwi, I kind of cottoned on and kind of said, well, let's connect. So yeah, Chris has actually been the driving force of getting us off the ground and looking to form the New Zealand chapter, which is cool. But the Agentics Foundation has chapters around the world. We've got another Rob on from Hong Kong. We've got guys in Sweden. There's a London chapter. There's New York. A couple in the States. So really good coverage.
Next slide.
Next slide. Yep.
Cool. Okay. So I want to talk to you a little bit about some thoughts around the future of work. So an analogy that kind of worked for me was to think about the world needing more conductors and less concert violinists. So what I mean by that is it's kind of better to be a DJ than it is to be a musician in a way, right? When you're talking about a future where we have agents doing stuff for us. At the same time, domain knowledge and experience is still critical. AI is a multiplier, right? It's an amplifier of the things that you're good at. Your impact using AI will be limited by limited knowledge and experience. The art really is figuring out how deep to go in any particular area. So agentic engineering is a mindset that helps us to leverage our expertise for greater impact and orchestrating outcomes based on this. It's less about grinding and more about directing. Our aim is to codify workflows that work and to make them repeatable. The ability to understand the process end to end, to wear different hats, and most importantly, knowing the right questions to ask and what good looks like. These are the key skills going forward, we believe. So work that used to be done by teams of people is now being done by individuals managing teams of agents. This is not science fiction. This is happening right now. There are people in the room here who are doing this. Hello, Reuven. So strong leadership skills and demonstrating good taste actually will become increasingly important in how work gets done going forward. So the opportunity for us Kiwis, I feel, we have a lot of SMEs, a lot of small business, predominantly so, right, in this country. So I'd love to see a reduction in paperwork and enabling those little guys to scale up and to reduce the burden that they have, to accelerate the things that as Kiwis we're already really, really good at, right? And to enable us to take that to a global stage, to solve real problems that people have that used to be too expensive to solve, but now they're not. Like, there are so many opportunities just out there in the real world that we can seize upon. To take a really customer-centric approach to new business models. So what I mean by that is, SaaS, as we've come to know it, is kind of like a tool that can do everything for everyone. But actually, maybe we could get you a tool that does exactly what you need, and to build that ourselves and to do it pretty quickly and cheaply. And the other thing that I'm really passionate about, and Simon's really passionate about, is to enable pathways for the next generation of workers. And we'll talk more about that. Over to you, Marc.
Cool. So this is actually taken from a post that Reuven did quite recently, and it really struck a chord. And so, I mean, I'll read what he's written. Guilds have always been about people. Medieval guilds were communities where craftspeople set standards, trained apprentices, and supported one another. They protected quality and preserved knowledge through master-apprentice relationships, social contracts built on trust and shared responsibility. The Agentics Foundation carries that spirit into the AI era. Our craft is building agentic systems that operate safely and ethically. Like traditional guilds, we focus on the mentorship, knowledge sharing, and setting standards that protect both the craft and its practitioners. And so I think that last piece about protecting the people is really important, because ultimately, this whole session today in Agentics' Foundation is about people sharing information, sharing knowledge, so that we can go out there and build good solutions. We're confident, and we're building high quality, and we're providing high quality for our for our customers. And I think New Zealand is a small country. We don't have the big tech companies. We don't have the Microsofts, we don't have the AWSs, and the big AI firms. But we can do a lot, and the Agentics Foundation is giving us the tools, leading the way and showing us how to do it. So, and it works. Like I've used their stuff. I've got code in production from using these tools, and it really does. It's a game changer. Simon, I think you wanted to add to this.
Yeah, I know the idea of how do we bring people into the guild, right? Because what we're seeing is that there are a group of experienced people who are able to use their knowledge and leverage the AI, these agentic AI, to do an amazing tasks. How do we grow and bring people in and accredit people and form the guild infrastructure, right? So I think there's a lot of discussion around what it is to be a certified guild member and how we move from potentially craftspeople into full engineering, which I think is what we need to start looking at as we move into these kind of verifiable and more sort of high risk domains, is that we want to be able to be more than just, oh yeah, this one craftsman can do it. It needs to be that community. And so I think it's really important to build those communities and start early in working out those pathways.
Thank you, Simon. Sorry for the technical button pushing. Right. Now, I wanted to invite our friends in Canada to say hello. Who have we got in Canada?
We got me, Reuven from Toronto. Just I'm actually on my lake house just outside of Toronto on Lake Huron. Hopefully, I'm coming through okay. I've been having some internet issues this evening.
Yeah, we've got you good.
Okay, good. Yeah, you're giving my presentation, so I love it. Seeing and hearing others present the vision is actually kind of an interesting kind of echo of the things that you think and say and hear and sort of out loud, which is really interesting to see and hear. And I really appreciate all the hard work Chris and Marc and others have been doing down there. Just a little background. My cousin actually lives in Auckland. She runs a small art studio. So there's a bit of an international connection, 16 time zones away. And I definitely it's on my list of places to get to and see. But the important part of what you're going to see today, I think, when you look and you think about Agentics, isn't the wholesale replacement of people. And there's often this discussion around this technology that it's dangerous because it's going to change the nature of work and people are no longer required. Part of that statement is true. The idea that it's going to change the nature of work is 100% what we're starting to see. And folks like Chris and others who are embracing this technology, embrace it in a way that empower them to do more than they could possibly do before. And this sounds almost fantastic when you say it, but this technology, when used well, can amplify your existing capabilities and also, more importantly, augment the things you're probably not as good at. And anyone that's ever used even things like ChatGPT realize that when you use it as a tool, as part of a kind of broader collection of things that you do in your work and your daily life, it's not necessarily a crutch. When you hear about kids cheating in school, obviously there's some portion of the audience that's going to look at this as a crutch, but we focus on the folks who are more interested in using this as a kind of accelerant, a kind of prosthetic for your mind and the ability to do more with less. And when you see the ability to do more with less, and you look at countries that have smaller populations that need to compete in different ways, this acts as, again, a kind of augment. And one person can do the job of many, and hopefully many can do the job of many more. And that's what the organization really exists to sort of cover. And I think, Chris, you already sort of said that a little bit, but
Well, it sounds better coming from the president of the foundation. So it's great to have you here, and it just shows, I guess, your generosity in that sense. So it's much appreciated. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Just to talk a little bit more, or unless anyone else would like to say anything on the call, has Rob Ransom joined us?
It is almost 2 morning, so
that's all good. Well, how about you, other Rob? Robert Yee. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Where are you calling in from today? You're in Hong Kong, eh?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Robert Yee. I'm helping Reuven running the chapter management committee worldwide, and Rob Ransom and I sort of work together because we're pretty much 12 hours apart. He's in Toronto. I'm oftentimes in Hong Kong, Singapore, and Malaysia. So it's great to see everyone. My last time in New Zealand was like 20-something years ago. I had fond memories of Auckland, and I was offered to go down to South Island and didn't get a chance to. Hopefully, we'll have a chance to go there. So Chris, you and I were talking about perhaps having regional, or even global events down the road. When the time comes, hopefully we can bring Reuven out, and we can all meet everybody in person. But in terms of setting up the chapter, running the membership and whatnot, feel free to ping me. I'm here to help. Thank you.
Mate. And you're running the chapters outside of sort of the North America, is that right, or chapters in general?
Chapters in general, because yeah, what it means is, for instance, you have enough attractions there. We have different levels of chapter that we can help you set up.
Yep.
Cool. You've got a big event coming up in Malaysia, Rob, I understand, with some big customers coming along, or potential customers.
Yes, we actually have a couple of folks from Europe and Dubai. They're also our chapter folks. Each one of them actually would probably run a chapter. And we're going to be presenting a series of talks at an event called AIPA. What it stands for is ASEAN Interparliamentary Assembly. This is where policymakers, entrepreneurs, AI, technologists all meet and discuss. Because what AI will bring is more than just a technical, technological innovation. It's more social, economic transformation. Chris and I were talking about the infrastructure change, the hard infrastructure, the soft infrastructure.
Right.
So the event is in September. Yeah, check out my LinkedIn. I did a post there a couple of days ago. If anyone's interested in coming or even participating in a discussion or a panel, just let me know. We're going to be finalizing the agenda this week. And our foundation logo should be there too. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Robert, and thanks a lot, Reuven, for sharing your insights there. So path to impact. So really, what this is all about is getting your hands on the tools, I think, and not just for whether you think you're a technical person or not. Anyone really. We're hearing from CEOs who are actually getting their hands on the tool and actually transforming their business by just being able to ask the code questions and like, is this the right thing? And what should we be doing? So for myself, R&D is just play. It's tinkering. It's figuring out how things work. So it's really a mindset. Now, Agentics Foundation and what they talk about, it's about providing a space for that to happen and providing open source toolkits, so tools that are freely available for people to use, educational resources, and workshops. So being part of the foundation means that we have access to all of those workshops, and wherever they're happening, they're being recorded. You can join them live, that sort of thing. So there's really this global fabric that connects it all together. And the thing, again, that I'm really passionate about is where do we go with this from an educational point of view. So inspired by what Marc and I have experienced with this community, we would like to invite you all to join us on this journey. So in order to become a member of Agentics Foundation and just formally establish the chapter, we need to have a local non-for-profit. So we are proposing to start one. and it is called the Agentic Engineers Guild. So this is for New Zealanders who want to build, but be connected to a global network of other builders. It's really a bottom-up approach. So the research on learning says that we best learn in group settings. We best learn in group settings when it is a new concept and we don't have enough background in it. So agentic engineering and AI in general, and where we're at with it, is actually very new. No one really knows. So what we want to do is to create that group so that we can all learn together and to grow together. And by the way, thanks to Ravi, who wasn't on this call, for allowing me to steal his quote. So in order to get this set up, what we're suggesting is an incorporated society, which is a legal structure in New Zealand, which is well suited for guilds. It is member owned and controlled. It is having to have at least 15 members in order to get started. It cannot distribute profits to members. It allows voting rights. It's relatively simple and inexpensive to run, and it must file annual financial statements. That's it. It's fairly straightforward. It's not too difficult, but it is something where we would be looking to you guys to contribute. You know, there's only so much time that Marc and I have. We both have families as well. So,
anyone's keen?
Yes, Marc. No. Yeah.
I was just saying, if anyone's keen, put your hand up and get involved.
Yeah, get involved for sure. And the thing that we are both of us ready to commit to is probably once a month we'll hold a national talk like this. You know, we've got access to facilities up in Auckland, and Johnny's very graciously offered his offices here as well, that we can all connect. But that's not to say, you know, little mini local chapters can't start up and you can do your own thing. And, you know, we're all connected on Discord and things like that.
I talked about, I mean, this is, you know, we're kind of making this up as we go, but we've thought about a monthly kind of more official kind of, you know, get together like this, and then we can have just, you know, dial in kind of vibe coding or just coding and sharing knowledge and saying, well, this is, you know, going into a bit more detail. Like I'll show a quick demo today just of how the kind of our kind of, I guess, standard setup works, but you know, we can go into a lot more detail and walk you through it, and you know, we can kind of share screen and you know, get right into the detail. So yeah, that's the whole point, right? Just to share knowledge and share them, yeah, grow.
Talk to us about the Agentics Foundation community.
So yeah, I'm assuming these stats are still relevant, still up to date, but anyway, Agentics 1,100 members, got platforms on Reddit, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, Discord, yeah, lots of people joining, lots of people contributing. I don't know if anyone is following Reuven yet, but he's a prolific poster and always some really, really good content. There's a core group of folks that are always sharing, you know, and kind of helping each other. It's a really vibrant community, and it's great to be part of.
All right. So just for a bit of fun, I thought I'll give you some ideas that you can just run away with if you like. Just some ideas for free. So I can't lay claim to all of these ideas. There's two of these ideas actually came from Wellington, who's in the middle of the pack over there, for the Gorespot 3000, which is giving targeted treatment in greener pastures with pinpoint accuracy. The drone rescue network, which is a self-organizing emergency response swarm that will go out and save people in danger. The She'll Be Right compliance tool, which is automating health and safety paperwork for tradies and any other compliance challenges they might have. The Cooperative Franchise Alliance. This is a member-first AI-powered franchise framework that can revolutionize how franchises are run through automation. Now, we hear a lot about ChatGPT being used for personal therapy, but what about cows? We can have a dairy herd therapist, which is providing cow wellness and production optimization. But this is the thing that I'm really excited about, which is quite serious actually. Agentic engineering apprenticeships, which is all about mentoring and work experience for grads and our other young people. And so here to tell us a little bit more about that is one Dr. Simon McCallum. Hello.
Hello. Right. Can you? Hopefully you can switch me over, and people can see me in the bottom corner here, reaching out into my slides.
Hold on a minute. I haven't pinned you yet.
You haven't pinned me. And people at the other side, if you double click on me, you should be able to pin me. I think.
That's better.
Yep. Okay. Yep. So as a lecturer, I find it easier to be in the slides rather than merely kind of a voice on the side. So I prefer this style of presentation. So a little bit of background. I got my PhD in AI from Otago University. So I started that in '96. So I've been doing this stuff for nearly 30 years. Actually did a lot of work in commercial game development. So I did commercial game development, and then I've taught game development for about 20 years. And I've done a lot of curriculum development. And one of the neat things about the game development space is that everything was changing every year. And so I got very used to this idea that I had to develop things that were able to change at the pace that the industry was changing. Right. And so moving away from being certain about what you're doing all the time to building the frameworks, building the supportive structures that allow people to move and drive forward. And so it's not setting goalposts. It's not saying, oh, you will do this and you will do this and you will do this. It's saying, okay, right. What tools do we have? Where are you wanting to get to? And how do I help you get there? Because when every year the game engines will change, or every year there's a new hot topic coming through. So this constant revival. I've also been doing a bunch of policy work, and I have a sole trader, which Ludogogy, where I do some game education stuff, and I've been doing AI consulting work. And in that work, a lot of the challenge, and we're seeing this in the reporting around, AI not having the impact it's supposed to have had, is about the education. It is that people don't understand what they're doing, right? And if you multiply a lack of knowledge, you get 10 times dumb rather than 1 times dumb, right? And so we need to better understand what's going on and learn how to use these tools. And so as an educator, I wind back and look at, what's the purpose of learning? And actually, it's about changing what's in our heads, right? It's not just about sort of having an output, but that skill and knowledge development and having time and effort and the cognitive reward of succeeding at difficult things. Right? Partly why I loved development was this idea, was the challenge of, debugging was so emotionally frustrating, and then success is so rewarding that I got that dopamine up. I got that joy and that pain, and I learned. Now, one of the things we have to be careful of with the use of AI and the use of agents is that we don't lose that joy. And I think one of the nice things about sort of the Agentics Foundation and this idea of you aren't just trying to get to a single endpoint. You are actually pushing to achieve a lot of things. And when something becomes easier, you keep moving. You move your goalposts. You achieve more rather than just saying, "Oh, yep, no, I'm done. I'll sit back and I'll just stop now." All right. So it's about embracing and engaging that movement forward. So from an educational theory, this is in the zone of proximal development. So there's a lot of learning theory that goes into how we develop as people and how we build our skill set. And there's this idea of a zone of proximal development, which is the area around what you can do and moving into what you can do with assistance. And so the agents are providing that assistance, but also you need mentors and tutors and colleagues, and it can be YouTubes or textbooks. And one of the things that is important about humans is that for many of us, not all of us, but for most of us, we need to have that emotional connection. We need to have someone that cares about what we're doing, and potentially someone to hold us to account for what we said we were going to do. Right? And so as building that mentorship relationship is both indicating that you care that this person is developing their skills. And when they say, I will get this done by Friday, you're there on Friday saying, hey, did you get it done? Right? Because the internet doesn't care and the AIs don't care, but your mentor does. And so that's where we have that connection of the tools accelerate us, and it's the humans that connect us. Right. So one of the challenges in understanding what we need to learn and what we need to create in this education pathway is we don't know what the foundational knowledge is anymore. Right. So there's this whole new space that we're moving into. How do we build appropriate mental models? So one of the challenges is like when I was doing debugging, right, what would happen, and I'll scratch, what would happen is as I coded, I would change my mental model, right? I would change some code, I'd align my understanding, I'd change some code, I'd align it. And so there was this constant flow of I developed the mental model of what was happening in my code. But what's happened is there used to be a relationship between time and effort and the quality of code. But now that's breaking down. It actually matters more about the kind of task you're doing than it is your capability, right? Because you're not having to do every little bit. The agents will find some things easy and some things hard. And we're no longer the only way of measuring that. It's not our own effort that is driving that. It is actually our connection to the problem, our understanding, and that deep, wide and broad understanding of the problem that we bring as context to help shape the music, the created output of the AI. So we're trying to work out, most AI researchers and my goodness, academia, most AI experts and researchers are like mechanics. They build systems, and now we've built these amazing systems and these amazing fighter jet kind of high quality swarms of AI agents. But we need fighter pilots. We need people who can drive them. And in fact, getting your engineer, right, your car mechanic to teach you to drive isn't the best way to learn to drive. So we need people who understand those broader implications of this technology and those tools, and are using those tools. And so we are trying to work out what do the flight school look like, right? Which is very different to mechanical engineering and mechanics school, where we're teaching you to build, to grind pistons and things. It is now, how do we learn to do this? How do we build these curriculums? How do we build these mentorship development? And one of the things that I think is going to become more and more critical as we move forward is that industrial education has been about creating widgets that fit in companies. Now the AIs are those widgets, and we have to become unique individuals with unique sets of skills. A lot of employment is now done by AIs doing matchmaking between an employee and an employer. And it's a broad range of things they're looking for, not just the, are you this widget? And so actually, in that mentorship process and in this development of skills, it's not about trying to become uniform. It is about actually differentiating yourself and broadening that skill set and bringing together things that will become the most important aspects of being a guild member. And being in the guild is actually not trying to be the same as everyone else, actually bringing something unique and new. And as part of that, and why I talk about going from craft to engineering, is that I've been looking at vibe coding and at prompt engineering and prompt craft and even potentially prompt poetry. But there's this idea of we are currently agentic crafters, right? And so that's why the guild is the kind of right structure, is because we are craftspeople. Engineering is what craft becomes when we unify it and we test it and we build that consistent ability to say, yes, this is a process that will work for you. So you're no longer just learning a craft, you are understanding the engineering of a solution. And so what we are looking at doing is, initially we need to start up these apprenticeships and bring experts with novices and look at how that relationship develops, and then extract the value from those relationship building and go, oh, okay, so this is working across multiple mentors. This is what the pathway looks like from going from not knowing things to being productive, right? And then we can look at, we're agreeing on what those learning pathways look like from having this experience of mentoring people. And then we can build curriculums, and we can based on experiences rather than just the tradition of what mechanics have always been doing. So these are actually a kind of interesting variant on apprenticeship. So traditionally, apprenticeships have been kind of on site. You come and kneel at the knee of the master and you watch what they do. This is more independent than that, right? It is more, you come, you share, you get that supervision, you agree on goals. And this is a model I've been using, which is called assessment by consent. We are not assessing you based on what we think you needed to learn, but we agree on what is your goal, right? And you commit to learning something, because we can no longer, in education, use this idea of, I got an end goal, so long as you get through that end goal, I'll give you a tick and you've achieved. It's kind of, no. Well, any goal I set, you could probably get an AI to get there. So what I want to do is I want to work with you to develop your skills on the things you are passionate about. And then once we agree that, we then look at the journey and the pathway and your commitment and your contribution and your development, right? And so that becomes this independent exploration. And that's where we start looking for how we agree on those goals and set up AI to help develop. We also have an interesting challenge of teaching people what to forget, because the world is now changing so quickly. Some of the things we have to teach people to do is to not become too attached to the current ways things are done, because that the challenge of change in a very unstable world is working out, what do you put in your backpack? We can't build cognitive parcels anymore. I can't build a massive building because with all of the knowledge and build these sort of, arcane, beautiful structures of knowledge, because AI is just washing it away all the time. So what do I put in my backpack as a survivalist when the earth is shaking all the time? What are your minimum set of skills? What are those transferable skills when the world changes that you take with you into those new scenarios, into that new situation? So I was going to finish with questions because I didn't want to take all the time. What are the pathways from novice to productive agentic engineer? Right? This is a question that we need to answer as a community. How do we accredit mentors and how do we accredit curriculum? Because if you are members, is there, what's the process of becoming an accredited mentor where you can take on apprenticeships and you are feeding back to the community, and that we trust that you're not going to just use them for slavery? What is the amount of theory needed for high quality agentic engineering, right? What is the theory practical balance? Do we have theory currently, or is our theory moving so quickly that there's no point in doing theory stuff because we can't build the theory fast enough? what is the best analogy to use in the general population to help them understand what we're doing? Because one of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have that policy, as Reuven pointed out, that policy impact and government impact, and we're going to have to explain it to normies. What is it that we're doing and why it matters? And the last one in New Zealand is to accredit with NZQA or not. It takes time. I don't know if you can set things up fast enough, get it accredited, and have it still useful.
Yeah.
Right? Because existing systems require so many layers and are so slow and require so much work. Is this something we think we should do or not? Okay. That was my short presentation. I didn't want to take up too much time because I think there's some awesome demos coming.
Thank you very much.
Questions or thoughts?
That was awesome. Well, I think we'll have some time for more questions, hopefully, and hopefully some answers at the end of the presentation. Now, back to
You go back to share.
slides. Yeah, going back to my share. That's one. Ta-da! It's very small. How do we make that one bigger? It says it's full screen.
Maybe unpin everyone.
Unpin everyone. Who's pinned right now? That one's pinned. No, that's not pinned. No one's pinned. This is why I'm not a big fan of Google Meet, to be honest. Let me try and exit full screen and do it again. That's somewhat well. Thank you. Sorry about that. Now, you've probably heard the term coding by this point, I hope, and vibe coding and agentic engineering, and where to use it on the spectrum. So vibe coding is a relatively new type of coding using AI and natural language to get work done. So this is where you fully give into the vibes and use exponentials and forget that the code even exists. You might be surprised what you can build without comprehending a single line of code. And even if you consider yourself technical, I'd encourage you not to simply scoff at vibe coding. Letting go of how the code works and concentrating on the outcome you want to achieve can be a great unlock for your creativity and productivity. While vibe coding is relatively magic, I would say, for the time being at least, agentic engineering on some level is still required if you want to ship serious, secure software into production. This is where we are still using coding agents to code, and we're still using natural language, but we follow a planned, structured approach, and we don't mind getting our hands dirty sometimes. But even if you consider yourself non-technical, agentic engineering is still within your grasp. If you're already a systematic, methodical thinker, you can bring this agentic mindset to your projects for great effect, allowing you to take on even more ambitious challenges. But be prepared to spend some time learning how to squash annoying bugs along the way. Okay, who's for a demo? Have you given sacrifices to the demo gods, Marc?
Yeah, hopefully. Okay. Okay, cool. So I've prepared a bit of a demo of the nuts and bolts of kind of like the current, I guess, state of the art of what the Agentics Foundation is doing. I can't hold a candle to Reuven. He kind of builds things. He'll start a session, he'll kick off some swarms, and then at the end of it, he'll kind of show us what he's built for us. This is a bit more, I've got a smaller window, but I'm just going to show you how the kind of process fits together. So bear with me. So I guess what you're looking at here is a GitHub code space. So the first thing we recommend when you're building is to use an isolated environment, a kind of a Kubernetes VM or something like that, or a code space. A GitHub code space works really well, because what you're going to do is you're going to enable Claude Code to, there's a switch called dangerously skip permissions, and you're basically telling it that it can just run without any kind of human in the loop. So you give it a prompt and off it goes. So there's all sorts of ways with MCP injection, context injection. There's all sorts of ways to take over that agent and do dangerous things. So you do not want to run that on your local machine. So that's the first thing. The next thing is, so it's actually a kind of little VS Code, if those of people familiar with VS Code software, that's running in the code space. The next thing is our go-to tool, our go-to kind of AI model is provided by Anthropic. They are just the kind of coder's sweet spot. You play around with other models that they don't produce the code, such good quality code. So it's been the go-to for quite some time now. And the other one is Claude Code, which is an Anthropic product, which is a command line kind of interface. Let me get the cursor. So that's what you can see in the bottom in the terminal. So this is just to give you to see what you're looking at the screen. The left-hand side is obviously your project, and you can see all your files. That pane up there is the actual content of the files. So what I did here is last night I was kind of thinking, what can we demo? I actually went to I won't try and change screen. I went to Claude Desktop, did some brainstorming in there. It came up with this earthquake claim accelerator, which is kind of quite telling, because the code that I have written at the moment, which is written with Claude Code, it uses an LLM to process as an insurance claim processor. So I thought this was fitted quite well. It's very New Zealand. It's an app to accelerate earthquake claims. So quite topical for the Wellington folks as well. So that's kind of what the idea I came up with. Anthropic have these max plans. So they have a $20, a bit like ChatGPT, a $20 kind of desktop plan. But then you can pay $100 US or $200 US dollars per month to give you a. It's not quite an all you can eat. It is limited, but you get a large amount of tokens that you can use within a 5-hour window, and then you can go again. So it's really powerful for spinning up swarms. I know I actually haven't hit the limit, so I'm not kind of pushing it hard enough, but I know the folks on the call and the Agentics guys will often hit the limits and have to kind of down tools for a little bit. So, but it gives you.
You're using this max plan for like long running tasks, right? Like you're setting it up and then you're walking away, and it's going to
exactly.
go
time. So, Reuven, I think you've mentioned your longest one is 24 hours or plus or something. You've run a.
Jesus.
Yeah. 32 hours, I think it was. Back in May.
I'm close to that. Like, my guys are finished in minute, like, an hour maybe or something. So yeah, you can really push it if you know what you're doing. Okay, so yeah, Claude Code has these things called where are we? Sorry, this isn't actually letting me interact with it for some reason. Oh, here we go. Okay, so just to get into some of the mechanics, I mean, I think we're mostly technical here, so hopefully I'm not putting the non-technical people to sleep. Claude Flow, actually I didn't mention Claude Flow, so that's that's an Agentics creation, and Reuven has been at the heart of that. That is a wrapper around Claude Code, so it gives it context management. It gives it memory. It gives it these things called slash commands, and it gives you these kind of agentic roles or personas. So you know how if you've played around with ChatGPT, you can say, answer this question as if you are an insurance expert, right? And it switches it into it gives it that kind of depth of expertise when it's responding to you. So that's what you have in here. I think it's in Claude actually. You have these agents. So this
there's different agents, right? And so you've used one of those agent profiles, so to speak, to create your plan, right? And that's what you're looking at the top. It's being generated by one of your agents.
Correct.
Yes, master thing.
And so another methodology that we use is called Spark, S-P-A-R-C. So that's it's effectively a workflow to get to your end working code. It stands for specification, pseudocode, architecture, refinement, and then completion. So it's a way of methodically working through to get to good, solid working code. So that is a big difference between vibe coding and I think agentic engineering, because you're taking a really methodical, thorough approach, and it's actually aligns with what you should be doing with normal coding. Like, the temptation for developers is to start writing code, right? But you want to do the upfront analysis, the upfront design, so you end up with a good quality product. And so what I've done here is did the initial brainstorming in Claude AI Desktop, and then got it to produce what I called let me close that up, a seed document.
A seed.
Seed, yeah. And so that was really just, and you can see it's already got into quite a bit of detail, but that was basically, you can see the.
Yeah, so we can see that you've kind of got a project structure there where it's describing the front end and the back end, and those the kind of the components of your project.
So that was I got Claude to generate a requirements MD, which is it creates artifacts. I cut and paste that, and I brought it into here and dumped it in and said, right, this is your starting point, and then you can see in here. Okay, so this is Claude Code. Welcome to Claude Code. It runs in the terminal within the code space. So let me just spin down to where the actual work starts. This is a bit of setup stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is my prompt. Hopefully Reuven passes, but I said orchestrate a swarm using Claude Flow MCP. So Claude Flow sits as an MCP within Claude Code, and it provides all of the functionality via the MCP.
What's an MCP, Marc?
Model context protocol. So that's so that's like a AI. I think of it as API for AI tools. Really, it's a way for the tools to interact with other tools. And so what Reuven, the Agentics Foundation, has wrapped all of that power behind an MCP, and that's how Claude Code interacts with it. So I've asked it to use that. Again, those of you that have spent time with AI will realize that you can do all the context engineering in the world, but sometimes it just plain refuses to do what you've asked it to and does something else. So sometimes you need to give it quite a specific little prompt. So that's what I've done there, just to make sure it uses the MCP. So I've said, design specs, pseudocode, architecture document. So I'm using the Spark methodology based on the seed requirements and you can mention a document. So it points straight to it. And then create a detailed implementation plan for a swarm. So I've actually teed it up to say, generate these documents ready for a swarm. So what that does is basically creates almost atomic pieces of work so that the agents can operate and don't overlap and confuse each other. Because if you've got two agents working on an overlapping piece, then that you'll run into trouble. So I found that works well. The London School of TDD, I'd never heard of that before, but again, that's something that Reuven is very clear on and always uses. It's just a way to always test the functionality and not test integrations and not get bogged down in that. So that helps a lot. TDD is a massive part of getting good code out. You provide that really strong structure around the code. So the production code is actually what it is intended to be. And again, if you've spent time with AI, you'll realize that it likes to go off in tangents. Sometimes it'll make stuff up. It'll dive down a rabbit hole. If you get the testing kind of framework right, you'll keep it contained, and you'll get good code out of it. Another thing I do is Chris he built this. You saw the agent definitions. He built a what was it called? Dr. House. So
Yep.
if you watched House, the TV program, the grumpy doctor. So he created an agent that was kind of a reviewing agent that would review the work of the other agents and give it a pass mark and be brutally honest about it. So I haven't said that, but I've just said put a quality gate in place, make sure it passes before you let it through. So another way to keep the AI agents honest and producing good quality code. So yeah, that was the prompt. And then you can see it spun up a bunch of agents. These were actually sequential, and you'll see later on that I actually had to prompt it to say run them in parallel, because again, there's in the Claude MD, which is a bit of context, it says run everything in parallel, but yet it decided not to. So you come across these things all the time, and you just have to be constantly monitoring and aware of what the AI is doing.
So what agents have you got there? Because we can kind of see some colors.
Okay. Yeah, I know, a bit more, right? There's a lot of detail on these screens. So I've got a researcher. There's a specification agent, a pseudocode agent. And then an architect. See, for example, it tried to spin up an agent called architect, and then it said, well, there isn't such a thing. So it found one called system architect. So, it does correct itself. TDD, London, Swarm, tester, reviewer, planner, reviewer. So that just ran autonomously, right? Just ran through, did everything it needed to do. Meanwhile, I think I told it to put the documents into the MVP directory within Docs. So, there's the roadmap markdown file. There's a pseudocode, created a README. It kind of, so it filled out all of those documents that I asked it to do. You can see it there, writing it out. And then it completes and gives you a summary of what it's done. Successfully orchestrated the swarm, yada, yada, yada. These are the files. This is what I've achieved. So yeah, that's a very quick run. That's nowhere near what Reuven's 30+ hours. That's just a very I don't know if there's a timestamp on there, but that was probably 20 minutes. If something. Okay, and so overall, so it's still going. Okay, this is the review. So this is what I asked it to do. Check to see if it's actually any good. So it's done that. It talks about what it's done, the approach it used, areas for consideration. So this is what I've done, but you need to think about these things. So again, you can factor that in. You might decide that you want to have another go at it. You might say, and this is where the human in the loop comes in. You actually want to take your time to review these files. You might look at it and go, well, actually, that's the wrong approach. I want to use this pattern. Or you'll notice I didn't actually prompt it to say what languages to use. It automatically chose Python, and that was the Claude desktop. And I didn't change it because I just wanted to get something ready for the demo. But you can specify use TypeScript. You can say use Node.js. You can say use Java or whatever you want, right? You can specify all of that and set it on its way. Cool. So that got us to that point. There's more information about what it generated. So, and then this is the implementation plan. So it's saying now from here on, week 1 to 3, these time spans are quite funny. They're based on, human developers, kind of pre-AI agent. So, you could smash through all of this in hours, even though it's saying this is going to take weeks and weeks, right? Reuven has this tool. What's it called? Is it SCC or something? There's a tool which will run over a code base and say this code base has got X number of hours and is worth this many dollars. So
SCC. Yeah, you can ask it to install the SCC Go library and do an analysis of your code. It comes up with really crazy numbers, like you just created $10 million worth of code.
Yeah.
So you gotta take the value with a grain of salt. The easier it is to create something, probably the less value it has.
Yeah, that's right. So cool. So we get to here, and then.
Hey Marc, I wonder if we might jump over and do a bit of a quick vibe on something and see if we can show some. What does the slightly easier pathway look like?
Okay.
And you guys, I apologize. It's getting pretty late here, and I've got an early morning. So I really appreciate everything you guys have been doing and putting together. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, mate. Get some sleep.
And thank you, Nick, and anyone else still on the line there.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
If you're ever in Canada, Toronto, come visit. We do our event the second Tuesday of every month. So you're all invited to travel the other side of the planet.
Brilliant. Thanks.
Right. Thanks. Bye.
Well, sorry to steal your thunder, Marc.
No, go for it. Yeah.
Good. All right, mate. Okay, so you've just seen a great example of, I'll have to grab the window of agentic engineering. And what you're hopefully going to see now is an example of vibe coding. And I've zoomed in a little bit, so hopefully you'll see it a little bit clearer. Show my screen anyway. Let's try. Yes. Okay, make it big. We're in Claude Desktop now, which is actually in a browser. So here's a prompt I created earlier. Create an eye-popping interactive chart showing New Zealand's rapid growth in the AI sector. Go. Okay, let's see what happens. Due to unexpected capacity capacity constraints. Come on, try again. We're using the Big Daddy model. We're using Claude Opus 4.1, so maybe Opus is having a bit of a struggle at the moment. We'll try Sonnet.
Not long after Anthropic released the max plans, the stability of the models was pretty bad because everyone was just absolutely smashing it. It does happen though.
Okay, so we're using Sonnet now, which is still a very, very capable model, and it's the one that most of us are using most of the time. And Opus is very good at planning, very good at doing the upfront thinking. So it's going off and it's creating a website for us, it looks like. And this looks like a bunch of HTML and JavaScript. Shouldn't take too long. Animation in there. Got some animation, got some colors. Witnessing explosive growth in the AI sector. How many people in the room actually could read that?
Do you mean
HTML.
understand
Like
what it was trying to do?
understand.
I reckon I could understand what it was trying to do. I don't think I could replicate the syntax.
Yeah.
Right, because it's pretty easy to follow code that's written in plain English. It's pretty hard to replicate syntax unless you know the language it's writing in.
All right. Well, here we go. We've got New Zealand's AI revolution. I might just zoom that down a little bit. Okay, can I make that? It was actually better before I did that, so let me go back. There we go. All right. It's got, oh, cool, it's animated. We've got a 28% annual growth rate. Excellent. 84% of workers are using AI, highest globally.
I don't believe it whatsoever.
15% GDP boost by 2038. Excellent. Okay. Oh, cool. Look at this. Oh, it's hockey sticks all the way, guys. Look at this. This is great. How are we going to get there? Price AI adoption. Okay. I'm not sure how, like, which agencies are they talking to here? Anyway, so that's just a cute little example of something that you can vibe up, you know, in about
Basic vibe.
a minute. Yeah, nothing wrong with it. You know, it's great for prototyping, great for getting your ideas down. It's pretty meaningless at the end of the day, but but it was fun. And you know, you take that to a boardroom and people might go, ooh, interesting.
So you could upload your own data, let's say,
Yes.
from your own business or
That's right.
company, analyze, plan, give me something, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So that was just the throwaway prompt, but you could absolutely give it real facts, real data, real information, and do something quite engaging. Okay, I think we are up to the Q&A section of the talk today. So, any questions from anybody?
I have a question.
Yes.
When when Marc was showing, the code and stuff, when it does a self-evaluation, do we use a different model when it does a reflection so that it can evaluate the code, without bias or something? Or do we just use the same LLM model?
That's a great question, actually. So, what the question is when
Claude Code, I think, starts using Opus models until you hit a threshold. There's two thresholds. There's an Opus threshold, and then it will switch to Sonnet. I don't know if you can force it, because the idea is you want to use Opus for your planning and your architecture and your upfront design, and then use Sonnet for your actual coding. Is kind of the way you want to do it.
You can switch.
Yeah.
There's a model switching.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So we before, like, it was 3 months ago, before Claude Code came out, we used to use a plugin for VS Code called Reuven, and that was very explicit. You'd have, for each of your agent types, you'd actually tie it to a different model. So for your architect, you can say use Opus, or use Chat GPT, or use GPT-4 or whatever it was, right? So you could really tailor it. But yeah, with Claude Code, it's the Opus Sonnet switch, really, and that's all you need.
If I may, maybe the question is kind of about, do we want to play different kinds of models off against each other and get a different result? Because if we're using the same one all the time, maybe we're going to kind of get a bit of a narrow-minded or biased view.
I think one of the patterns with AI agent is about reflection, isn't it? So we're able to evaluate what the output is and then improve, on the next iteration. So I'm just wondering, if you do an evaluation, do you actually use a separate model so that it gets a broader feedback of your output and then improve it, so later on?
Absolutely.
So it's
There's the Claude tool will talk to, obviously, Anthropic's AIs, but it's a fork of the Google one, so Gemini. And there's another one out there called Quinn. So they've got their own command line tool as well. But it's more interesting in that it allows you to talk to anything that's got the OpenAI interface to it. So you can just keep switching models as you like in there. So if you need to, via, like for the stuff that I do, I'll use Claude for a bunch of stuff. Mainly any of the orchestration stuff on the top, I'll use that. And then sometimes I'll switch to like local models by calling the Queen command line tool, etc. So yeah, you can switch between them, and there's goodness to be had in doing so. So you're right there. It's something that you do, and it's actually like useful. So yeah.
Any other questions?
Can you comment on tools that bring all of it together for production, such as like lane flow or those types of tool sets, and which ones you've used and good, bad, why?
I'll be honest, I haven't used a lot of all the different tooling. I've pretty much just stuck with Claude Code. Certainly when you get out of development mode and into kind of deployment, mode, it's there's a bit of a bump in the road, and you kind of have to start publishing and things. But I just the code I've got in production now, I just used it's all Visual Studio and just use the publish, so it was all pretty straightforward. But yeah, I know there are lots and lots of different tool sets and different ways of doing things. Yeah, I haven't used them. So, Chris, I don't know if you've got anything to add from your experience.
I've primarily used Claude, at least for the last probably 4 or 5 months. Prior to that, I was using what was I using? I was using OpenAI there for a while.
I guess I'm asking at an orchestrator level.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about that.
So orchestrating what?
Tasks and yeah, from orchestrating tasks, automations. Actually, we're talking about cutting code.
Yeah,
versus actually
orchestrating kind of a broader context of tasks and things like that.
To-dos, like stuff to get done in the day.
Right. So the agentics, kind of agents that are interacting with your to-do list and that kind of thing, and calendars and things. I haven't done it. Like I know there's things like N18, which will do a lot of that kind of stuff. Yeah, I haven't played with that. I've just really been focused on the code. But yeah.
One of normally we would have just used Claude, right? But one of the reasons that we've had to do a lot of switching for the stuff that we're doing is because the testing's been really important, and we're using it for like porting code bases. A lot of the time we're having to use code that data that was out of production, and that contains privacy information, private information. So we can't use Claude to do the debugging when we're dealing with private information in there, because we can't afford for that private information to go up to the main servers. So for some steps we can use it for doing like the coding, and for some steps we have to switch to local models because we cannot afford to send that data out to these cloud services. It's just against the policy for it.
Have you considered using private instances of your own model, like using Azure's AI Foundry or AWS's Bedrock?
And we're using when we're switching to local models, we're literally running the models locally. We've got
on your own. Yeah.
The highly sensitive.
Yeah, for the highly sensitive stuff, like we've physically got boxes here that we're running the models on, so that is under the control of our org. So that's the reason that we're doing the switching. Otherwise, we'd normally stay in Claude land because it is so very good. But I mean, we're also setting up stuff for assessing different models, because we know Gemini's about to, like, Google's about to drop a new Gemini model, and I kind of expect it'll be the one that finally ends up beating Claude at coding. But like, who knows, right? But we just need tests for it.
Hey, Marc, just in the interest of time, I think we'll take a couple more questions here and maybe a couple more from Auckland.
Yeah, we've got a question up here actually.
Okay. Hit us.
And is the plot flow that you're showing.
Yeah.
It's mostly for building apps, but it's not for an agentic. It's not an agentic framework where it actually orchestrates things.
No, I guess it's not. It's agentic development, I guess.
Right.
Like, you know, you're running a swarm of agents,
Right.
and they're collaborating, but it's all within the code base and writing code. But so yeah, it's not like an NAM. Or,
Yes, I have a question around that.
Yeah,
Actually. So if there's a issue with the architecture itself, how does it go back to the architecture? Because we've already started a swarm.
Yeah.
What I see.
Yeah.
We have a whole swarm of devs that done a whole bunch of work.
Yeah.
And again, there is an issue with the architecture. How does it like fall back and start?
Yeah. So the question is, if you've got like an architect agent, how does what it's produced feed back into other agents, like the developers and the coding agents?
Find an issue, like they can't solve a problem. Let's say the fundamental issue with the architecture itself.
Yeah.
So how does the developer communicate back to the architecture agent to say, hey, this is wrong, or there's some flaw here and they can't get solved?
Well, I guess that how I would do it is just give it kind of effectively, you give it a task and say run it through to completion to a point. You can ask it if you can just prompt it to say, you know, if you come up with a particularly tricky issue, then ask. You can actually tell it to break out and ask. And each of those agents can do that while they're running in parallel. Or you just give it like an atomic task to finish, and then it will say, this is what I've done, and you can review it. Yeah, so there's multiple ways to do it. Obviously, if you're running a 36-hour cook, then you're kind of just letting it go and you're seeing what comes out the other end. But the other thing you can do as well is if you can run a swarm, or you can run a cycle. If you're not happy with what it's built, you can just burn it and maybe learn from what it got wrong, change your spec or what your prompt at the front, and then just run it again. So you can do that. You can afford to do that. Like if it takes 2 hours to build a whole app, right? You can just burn it and start again.
Yeah. So actually, I was working with Reuven, right?
Yeah.
I was working with the here because you already have an agentic framework like line graph, which does the whole thing, the orchestration.
Yeah.
Given the issue with the level, like in the architecture itself, you can loop back and you can basically have that whole model. Right.
Yeah.
But I think code flow is one way, like it just goes down, like it doesn't fall back. Like,
well, there's two ways, right? There's two ways. I mean, obviously it's producing artifacts as it goes. And so when that agent finishes, another one starts, it can see what it's done. So that's a natural feedback loop. But Claude Flow, the MCP wrapper, has a memory module, so it has a kind of in-memory database, and so they can coordinate via that. So yeah, there's a few ways to do it. Yeah.
Can we steal the mic back, Marc?
Yeah, go for it, Chris.
All right. Well, I think we'll take 2 more questions, just in the interest of time, before we start to wrap things up. So we'll start down the back there. Sorry, mate.
Hey, I guess I started white coding randomly and trying stuff. I've kind of tried everything, and I've kind of shifted more towards what they call context engineering.
Yep.
Which is basically another level up from prompt engineering.
Sure.
So it's kind of like if you ask a dumb question, you're going to get a dumb answer. So
sure.
AI stuff is really about giving enough context so that the AI can give you the right answer.
100%.
So I think one of the core skills of using AI is understanding context and what's needed and what isn't. And it's like kind of how can we use AI to get more context?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure how to answer that.
I do it by just chatting with it, right? Like, so I often leave it hanging halfway through a conversation, actually, because I'm like, oh, I've got this problem, and now I'm typing the problem, and I'm telling you what I'm thinking about the problem. And like sometimes I go back and forth one time, maybe two times, but by the time I get to the third time, I'm like, no, you've got to understand this part of the problem, and then we've got to think about that, and we've got to think about the other thing. And then I just leave it hanging because by then I've answered my questions, right? Like, I know I'm doing something else, right? But I think that's how you use it, right? You're like, oh, I had this vague idea, but I don't know how to word it. How would I do this? And so I think that's a little bit easier if you happen to be one of the population who does auditory thinking processing anyway, right? Because you can start typing, oh, I need to connect my yellow dot with my blue dot, and I've got this constraint over here. I think that's possibly harder if you don't have an auditory processing style for thinking, but then I guess maybe you just have to qualify because we all talk. And then you ask it, right? Like ask it, oh, how do you think I would how do you think I do a well-formed prompt for an AI because my problem is blue dots? And to see what it says.
For me, I end up doing a lot of making sure that I do a lot of context editing directly. so a lot of what I'm doing is more removing stuff out of context. Yeah. So yeah. I end up with a very I end up with the stuff that I end up dumping the context out to file and having something that goes through and like pulls parts out, or have bits where I'm deliberately constructing what's in the context. So it'll have what particular API calls it has access to, etc., etc., etc.
We've talked about that iterative approach, right? Where you're asking you get an output,
yeah,
and then you take that output and you feed it back in, and it's like a feedback loop, and so it kind of builds upon itself.
Yeah,
but you're dumping the context as you go, so you have a really crystallized context.
Yeah, but mostly it's about making sure that like I'll get it to go down a particular path after saving the context to a particular thing, and then I'll reload it from there because that stuff that it needed to do, we want the output from it, but we don't want the thought process that it took to it, because then like that thought process is being processed every time anything else happens, and we don't need that. So basically, if we don't need it, it's out. That's how I approach it. So it's very minimalistic. So
I think Simon had something.
Yeah, and that's partly what I was saying about the forgetting, because once something's in context, if you leave it there, it like the AI will treat it as true, and so you've got to manage that kind of how do I remove things from context. And one of the things that I do is I add to my instructions that it has to keep clarifying with me. I get it to ask me questions, so I have that as a kind of standard prompt, and so I have to keep clarifying and re-talking to it, and it tries to extract information. I also look at giving it previous projects, or so like just spamming a Google Doc with thoughts about what's going on and similar projects, and just build that in, and then ask the AI extract the value out of this and summarize it. I check the summary and then use those, right? So it's a kind of that very much of that iterative process. And as you say, building context, how you get more context, document lots of your life. Keep documenting, keep talking, keep chatting. And I was also going to say that I was using Codex, so OpenAI's agentic coding. So I've been comparing Codex with Claude, and Claude is still better. So even in the 5 world. So
awesome. And I think we another hand earlier. You wanted to chip in.
I was going to ask a question. You made a comment. Sorry, I don't know your name. About so there is nothing like production data to debug code, right? Like that's just that's just a thing, right? And so I think that is I assume that's quite a common problem. You have to have, well, so far until now, you had to have really quite sophisticated data pipelines to really wash production data if you really wanted PII clean, particularly if you have, like it's a complicated space, right? And so one of the things that I've been thinking about is, well, surely LLMs would be really good at washing data. Oh, but here's my problem. If I can't give my data that has PII to an LLM. How do I get the LLM to wash the data? And I was just thinking.
But you can give it to this little box that has an LLM on it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have my little box with me today. So you're
The story is, would you have to plan it locally to do the washing, and then you would be able to use the wash data that was very similar to production safely?
So what we end up doing is for our particular cycle, right? I'll be direct about like what we're actually doing. We've got a whole pile of we've got hundreds of SAS scripts running on SAS Grid. It costs us a lot because SAS licensing, we don't like it. We want Auckland, right? That's pretty reasonable. So what we do is we take the code that is in the SAS code and any documentation that's around it, because a lot of the time the people who are originally writing these things, they're long since gone, right? So the code is the documentation at this point. And so we use that to pull out, we create this loop where we get it to pull out the business rules for the code, from that code, and then we use those business rules to produce our new set, right? And then it runs the tests that are production, that are using the production data from the old one, because we've got a whole pile of inputs, we've got a whole pile of outputs. We can run that, we can compare it. Does it do the same thing?
But what's the goal, right?
Right. We'll get to the goal. We'll get to the goal.
Reverse engineering the business rules out of the SAS analytics.
Right.
And probably optimizing them.
No, what we end up doing then is we then debug we get it to go through a debugging run saying, hey, look, the output is not the same as the input, right? What did we, and we give it access to the original SAS code during this. We say, hey, how did this go wrong? And then we get it to update the specification that it built. And so the idea is that it then is in going through this loop where it's only got access to the specification and like the deployment platform information, and information for testing when it's running the tests and it's building the code that it's going to run on tests, but it's got access to everything when it's updating the spec. And so we can end up in a state where we've got a spec when it passes that is provably complete, right? Because it contains everything that's needed to produce something that then produces the output code that can pass the tests. And so our goal mostly is that set of specifications, because then, like, sure, we can deploy it to Databricks, we can deploy it to wherever, but it also means that one, we've now got those specs, and two, we can use the LLM basically, we can use the coder basically as a compiler stage, so that when we go to move to a different platform or we want to use it under a different system or whatever, we can then rerun it. So it disconnects us from actually having a code base that we care about as such. We can just redeploy to something else under a different language on a different platform using different databases and just say, okay, we can do that, and it'll take us a few hours, and we know the specification.
So you built this repeatable engine that allows you to move from one thing to another thing.
Yeah, but mostly it is there to produce the spec. Like the code is a side effect.
Right. So you must get a really good spec that can give you a result that gives you 100% tests.
Right, and so what we need to though is we need to have it so that it splits stuff up so that it does things in stages, because then debugging, we need it to like, a lot of the prompting is around making sure that code does not end up in the spec. It's just business rules, because it'll fill it with code if you give it the chance, right? You gotta really be clear on that.
No, I think you'd definitely be making some friends in this room.
Yeah. The other part is that you've really got to stop. there's a lot of permission stuff in there, because one of the things that the agent will do, given half a chance, is edit the tests so they pass. Yeah, right. You do not want this, right? You want passing tests, but you don't want them because the tests have changed. You want them because the code is right.
It really wants those tests to pass. It wants you to be happy.
Yeah. It wants you to be happy. It's like a extremely over energetic golden Labrador, and you just gotta yeah. Yeah, so that's the stuff that we're doing, and we're doing a bunch of other stuff, but that's the main one.
Sorry, have you ever heard that quote that any production system is not a good spec to replicate itself? Right.
Yeah, what's in the quote, really?
Any production system has been for a very long time has the original intention, and then the next update, and then 15 different programmers later, and some number of years, various things, it goes up and then it goes down and then it goes sideways to fix the thing that you no longer want. And so, do you also have to have an approach to optimize all the foibles and all the fixes of the foibles over the decades of development?
Okay, pause.
I can do a presentation on that.
Let's have a presentation, but we've got time to have some drinks and a few meals, perhaps.
Yeah, should we wind it up, Chris?
We're going to wind it up now, and we can see that in the meantime, Simon is vibing up a storm. So there's just one more slide, and it is the most important slide of all, because it is the call to action.
I want us to sign a piece of paper.
I want you to sign a piece of paper.
And send over your bank details, your credit card details.
Oh no! You get the first, but not the second.
I'm going to unpin you, and hopefully, there we go. It's going to be a little bit bigger. It's not.
You got to push the button again.
Push the button twice, and you hopefully see it down the back. What now? So we promised you that this would be a talk with some action in it, not just a talk. So what we're asking you to do is to join us on this journey. You can do that by signing this piece of paper, and what that will do is I will send you an email with the next steps, and that will be, we are formally creating the Incorporated Society for the Agentics Engineers Guild New Zealand. That will enable us to create the New Zealand chapter of the Agentics Foundation, and hopefully one day, right, Simon, we can create some certifications and accreditation pathways for the next generation of agentic engineers.
It's already few people who left who may want to join as well. Is there like an online form that we can fill out?
And didn't agent write it?
Didn't agent write it? We will find a way to connect with those people. Marc has a form, hopefully, that anyone who's left in Auckland can sign.
Sure do. Hey, I'm just thinking about it. We should probably change that robotic arm to a human arm. That probably makes more sense.
No, I don't think it is. You're telling the robotic arm what you want built. You're letting it go.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Auckland, and thanks for hanging in there. And more questions will be answered at the next one.
You mind if I ask you a question, or do you want these guys to be on the line?
All right. We're gonna dial off.